All right, so here we have a couple of exercises that are later in the series of the 14 Progym set. And like I said, a little while earlier, it's generally better to do them in order, but certainly even these couple that we have here that Dr. Clegg and the English department have singled out as acceptable ones for the ninth graders or 10th graders to do sort of out of order. Uh, you know, you can certainly get some good work out of them, especially depending on if you're doing it for uh, with the literature that you're reading or just as creative writing exercise. This number 12 here, looking at 12 and 11 sort of out of order here, but that's all right. The vivid description of number 12 here can be a nice creative writing exercise. I think part of the reason it's so late in the series of 14 is because it really sets up well right before the thesis, which is number 13. And we often in the senior thesis use this exercise as a great attention grabber for the thesis in the classical oration format. So that may be, it's I don't really know. There isn't a whole lot of evidence of why these 14 are necessarily in the order that they're in. Like I said, some of them pair off really well, and it makes sense to have the thesis and the law certainly toward the end of the list. But some of the middle ones probably could be and really it could be in any order here. And so if you want to use this vivid description one for ninth grade, 10th grade, I'm sure you could, like I said, you get some good work out of the students. Have them focus really on adjectives, adverbs, you know, composing, really high quality sentences, compound sentences, compound complex sentences, perhaps. This could be a good tool for while you're focusing certainly on vivid description, also written variety and emphasizing different grammar aspects that you're not necessarily focusing on knowledge necessarily. I mean, again, if you're tying it into a literary scene, maybe have them describe, right, how is this, before they read the last chapter of the book, whatever, what do you think the last scene is going to look like? Something like that. Or maybe the the new last chapter of a verse or chapter of a book or something like that. Here's where it ends. What might the next scene look like? Or the next scene of a play. Maybe you read this play and then, all right, what would the next day look like after the curtain closes and the lives of these characters? You could draw a vivid scene like that. It's not really about the people so much, but really what is happening. Describe the setting. That's, I think historically that's mainly what it is. It's almost kind of a romantic with a capital R first chapter from Cooper or Hawthorne or somebody saying just slowly pan or Sir Walter Scott, right? Slowly panning down. Here's every tree. Here's every sound of the birds and the animals in the forest. Here's where the sunshine is falling on every single leaf and things like that. You could use this exercise here for something like that, really to get them focused on bringing a scene to life, right? And that's really what the point of this is, right? Describing a person, describing a scene. Well, it's good. It's really pairs off with number 11. So make sure if you're going to do this one or the other one, make sure you are familiar with what 11 and 12 are really about because they are fairly distinct. Okay, so that's really the vivid description. It can be a pretty useful thing. It can be short, a paragraph or two. It can be a couple of pages long, however you want to be. Creative writing, responding to literature, things like that. You got a lot of variety, a lot of options here for this one especially. Okay, so before that, you got number 11, the impersonation. That's definitely focuses on a person, right? You got the heritage of them with Plutarch's Lives and others, and so this literary form certainly has a long-standing tradition. We think of them sort of as biographies, autobiographies today, and certainly I don't know if we have ever really focused. I mean, we did a little bit of Fox's Book of Martyrs years ago for the ninth grade. And I'm sure Mr. Christian has them look at some biographies of some historical people for sure. Obviously, Life of Christ type things in Bible class, sure. But this could be an interesting opportunity maybe for maybe an additional assignment, maybe an honors sort of task of reading a biography, something like that, or composing one. At least give the students more opportunity to see what this should be like. Reading some good biographies, or at least snippets of good biographies, things like that. Could give them a good idea of what this is about. Also, other good source material, just good essays of from a literary perspective, uh, character analysis essays, things like that, maybe from previous students, good essays from T.S. Eliot, Lionel Trilling, others, in the great history of literary scholarship that we can draw on. Have students read a little bit about here's a really good character sketch analyzing this character, and then imitate that. Right? These, as we said, all these exercises are really about imitation. So if you can give them good samples in advance to really know this is the style that we're looking for, something that's probably even beyond their skill, so they're not just copying and pasting, even subconsciously what they've seen, but showing an example that's probably beyond their ability, saying here's the kinds of things that we're looking for, maybe not specifically, but the direction you're heading in your writing skills. I think that would be, depending on the students, certainly in their temperaments, that may be motivation to say, or just a good sample of, oh, this is sort of what we're looking for, right? Uh, the more samples you have of these, the easier it'll be for the students to understand, oh, that's what I'm supposed to be doing. But you know that already. All right, so some of the characters, or as it says here, like the dramatic monologue, maybe some. I know in British literature, especially, you've got the dramatic monologues of Robert Browning. Especially, I know we usually save those for 12th grade, but you could certainly bring in one early in 9th or 10th grade as a poetic form of this. Where Browning just sort of creates this character and he's writing the speech, right? This impersonation really is traditionally it's kind of like a speech, right? You, the writer, are this character and you are saying something as this person, right? And so it doesn't have to be like that, but that's really kind of the main difference really between the impersonation and the description. Whereas if you wanted to talk about characters, analyzing a character in 12, the vivid scene, that's sort of more of what it's about from an external point of view. What makes those characters, what they like, what their values are, the way they behave, things like that. This impersonation is the students are that person writing a speech, writing maybe not necessarily an oral speech, or just maybe an internal monologue for how they react to the situation. Maybe they write a scene as Scout in To Kill a Mockingbird, where she's watching the trial unfold before her, like where what is she really thinking and feeling in that situation? What's going through her young head, right? And so you have the students write a 1 page, page and a half sort of internal monologue of who's that, who's what are they doing to my dad? Maybe she's asking questions, maybe she's making young person judgments on what's unfolding before. So that's lots of freedom. This definitely ties really well into responding to some the short stories, the books that you're reading from English class. Certainly, it's certainly good to work well. Like I said, other class, history, science, even looking at some inventions and progress in science. Write a brief thing as Madame Curie or others. What is going through her head when she's discovering this? Things like that. How is Isaac Newton feeling when the apple drops on his head? Something like that. There's a lot of freedom for drawing in other disciplines beyond just English literature class, and so there's a little bit of this one's not quite as rigid. There's freedom to do it as a speech. It certainly could work well in speech class, obviously, and so the writing handbook certainly has more details on clarity, conciseness, or concision, fluidity, lack of finish, absence of figures. There's certainly some more elements in the writing handbook if that's still accessible and usable. You could work in some of the elements of style for that one, certainly past, present, and future. What is it? And we highlight some of these aspects in senior thesis too, with ethos and character. So if you do have time to work this exercise in, it could be certainly beneficial for students going into 12th grade. Obviously, if it's 9th grade, there's going to be a 2-year gap. And remember this thing that you did 3 years ago? They probably won't. But if this happens again in 11th grade, especially, this would work. Be a good sort of preparatory tool for the thesis. They are thinking as the opponents, thinking as what proofs do I need to use, and if it's a historical issue, certainly what are the factors that were going through the minds and the cultures and the attitudes and the times of those people, what it might be like in the future, and if we were to do this, things like that. So if it is a creative writing activity, you could certainly have a freedom of imagine you're a character, the next day, like after the play ends, after what would Scout think, you know, even though To Kill a Mockingbird sort of has that she's writing as a memory. Like if she was years later thinking about her own present day, what from a future perspective of young Scout in the book, but what might she think in the future as a grown woman, things like that. So lots of options here for 11, 12, even in ninth and 10th grade. Certainly, these two you can take them out of order. They would certainly work well again if you come back to them 11th and 12th grade after you go through more of the intermediate exercises. You could certainly do them again. Uh, you know, Even the students say, "Hey, we did this a couple years ago. Why are we doing it again?" You say, "Well, now you're older and you're a better writer. You can do it even better. Maybe do it even longer. Or maybe give a more challenging aspect to these sorts of activities." So even if you want to use them out of order, like that's fine. You can still get some good use out of them. And we got three more to look at here, to at least for ninth and 10th grade, and we should try to keep it concise there for this last video here, and we'll wrap it up. All right, thank you.